Good morning. This is a report by the students from Glasgow Caledonia University who came from Europe and India to undertake this year's project. Excuse me while I start the slideshow. This is the fifth of such projects that we've undertaken. I'm Mic Starbuck. I represent the Royal Society for the Arts Fellowship here in Scotland. The report that triggered this was this one on climate change contributing to widespread declines amongst bumblebees and their move northwards in the Northern Hemisphere. And it's a meta-analysis of mainly citizen science projects. I was also very strongly influenced by Dave Goulson, who started at Stirling University and is now at the University of Sussex. This is the actual European project semester. So the students, 4 of them, came for a whole term from the end of January and should have stayed until Easter, but were interrupted this year. This is the university who acts as the host, and this is the Royal Society for the Arts and Manufacturing Commerce, who, through me, have sponsored this project. The participants are listed here, 1 from India and 3 from Europe, including Scotland. The stakeholders, including myself and the university staff, also had our friend Jennifer and Scott Shanks from the RSPB, that's the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds. So the main aim of the project was to capture images of bumblebees and to analyse for their identification. I'd also asked them to look at the cost of collecting and storing the results and to investigate what opportunities exist for sales of the data. So we gave them some basic information to start with as to why bumblebees are important, initially looking at them as pollinators, but also looking at them, and we were not aware of any other research in this, as indicators for determining the health of an environment in our city. They undertook research themselves, looked at the background to this, that half the UK species are now in decline, there have been extinctions, that there's been a loss of the habitat, a much increased use of pesticides, and also, more importantly now, they're exposed to higher temperature levels due to climate change than their historical level. This is particularly true in the heat islands that form in the cities. And there's a mismatch now between them and the plants, but the city landscapes are providing much more diverse, and so are the parks, groups of flowers, and there's a growing awareness of the desire to monitor local bumblebee activity as well as globally. So we gave them a mini spy camera as a prototype. We asked them to collect and analyse images, which they were able to do, though they found considerable problems with the mini spy camera I provided them with, not least its demand for power and its rapid use up of the memory card by taking continuous video. So they then started to look at how you could best trigger the camera and used a motion detector. They used a Raspberry Pi motherboard based computer that you can see here in its case, and they were able to get a full resolution image, and they were able to save the images, and they were able, most importantly, to timestamp them. This is the results taken indoors with some flowers I provided them with. So this was well before the bumblebees appeared here in the west of Scotland out of their hibernation. So they used a cutout image of a bee connected with a thread so they could move it. And they were able to successfully detect the image and prove that the motion capture worked, and they made a stand to hold it vertically above the specimen. But the issues raised were a maximum capture frequency of 3 seconds, and they did get some motion blur. So they worked on this, and they had a very successful project, which had then been interrupted by the start of the pandemic. So they didn't get on to the image recognition software. They reviewed it, laid out these ideas for how the project might continue if they'd been allowed to continue. But more importantly, they did some audio analysis of bumblebees. This initially was aimed to work round the saving of power and memory on the camera, so that the camera would only start to collect images when it could hear a bumblebee. This, however, then raised, I think, the most important part of this project, the question, a research question for the future: can audio be actually used to identify bumblebees? For the future of the project, this still requires constant power outdoors in order to function, particularly if it was going to be used in remote areas. So they had planned to obtain a portable power bank, which would allow it to be used in a variety of locations. I had originally been envisaging this might form a network of such cameras, so I had suggested at this stage that they use solar cells. They also need to weatherproof the case for full outdoor use, and most importantly, it needs to be customized to accommodate the audio and the environmental sensors to measure the heat, the light, the humidity, etc. That was the end of the student part of the project. What I have since had is this slide on where we might next go with it. So we want to continue to develop new technologies to better enable citizen researchers. Previously, we had developed 3 air quality alerts and 1 microplastic monitor for polluted water. We have just proposed a citizen research hub and a portable lab with a gas chromatograph and mass spectrometer, which are now available much more cheaply from ex-military and police forensic use. However, this project was interrupted when the students were sent home due to the pandemic, when the lockdown started. They all successfully got out, and most importantly, continued to cooperate with each other to finish the project in fine style. So how will this format of project be best able to continue post-pandemic? Will we be able to get students next year? The whole Erasmus project in the UK is under debate at the moment. We also need to give feedback from this project to the original authors, and I'm in touch with Tom Newbold at University College London, and we will have a further chat. But perhaps most importantly, our own Scottish Rural University College has shown an interest in taking this forward in some form. They have fruit growers, the allotment societies. Jennifer is already in touch with our local wildlife trust. And as you saw, we've had help from the RSPB. And there are potential further research use. How might we best capture 3D data in tall trees and thick vegetation of what the bumblebees are doing? No longer will PhD students have to stand on ladders with a camera waiting to get an image of a bumblebee. We also have some overall issues to resolve. The IPR of this project doesn't belong to me as a small scale sponsor. It doesn't belong to the students or the university alone or the staff. We need to look at this and think how we can take these projects forward to develop an income stream for social enterprise based on the exploitation of results and data from these projects. Finally, this is a picture of a bumblebee in my garden earlier this year. Listen to the bees. Thank you very much.